One thing I miss about Warhammer 2 is the sub-factions, right? You could actually, I love the fact that we have tons more banner options, don't get me wrong, but in Warhammer 2, when you picked a sub-faction, it would actually, like, change the lords you had access to, and on the sub-faction for a given lord, if they had some units in campaign that were from another faction, like, for example, Arkan the Black, even though this is not his faction, had access to Hexwraiths, which is why they're on the extended roster for the Tomb Kings, and obviously he can recruit them in campaign. I think he can get Crypt Ghouls as well. Anyway, it was really cool, because, it of course restricted your lord choice, but opened up more unit choices, and they usually costed a little bit extra, Alariel's Dryads, or, Hexwraiths were never that amazing in Warhammer 2, so it's not like you would actually do this that much, but it was cool that you had the option to. And nowadays, when ethereal units have had some reworks, and I would say are just arguably a lot better, and actually can synergize pretty well with the Tomb Kings in this kind of a build setup, I do think it would be cool if they brought something back like that. This battle in particular was from a tournament hosted by Tequila Sunset, where he basically did that. Like, if you took a specific lord, you could take extended roster units associated with that lord, hence Prime here having some Hexwraiths alongside alongside Arkan. Even though this is Numas, it's not actually Arkan's a war host or whatever his faction is called. But anyway, let's take a look at the builds here as they're getting into contact with the Beastmen. He's got a bunch of skeleton spears and skeleton warriors up front, some skeleton archers, horsemen, a little bit more of an elite cavalry in the Hexwraiths, and he's also got some sepulchral stalkers as well. And then, some vultures up in the air, or carrion rather. Guess they're undead vultures. Sons of Goros here for the Beastmen, alongside some Ungor Spearman herd. He's got a couple of Razorgore chariots, Koroks, and the Bray Shaman, some Centaurs, and Blackhorns Ravagers, more Gore herds. And let's get things rolling. So, Hexwraiths for the Tomb Kings. Mainly, this is good because Tomb King's cavalry isn't amazing, and they actually don't have anything that's in the 90s speed range. So this gives you both speed and quality, something you don't have. Of course, they're 100% AP, which again, Tomb Kings, they have, their elite AP cavalry, the Snake Knights, which is pretty good, but it's, this is just a little bit different. They're ethereal, against a faction like Beastmen, which is probably not going to take a ton of magic, but we do see that Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma being popped on the Hexwraiths. And immediately this one gets Enfeebling Foed as well, but we'll see the second line come through. Meanwhile, Sepulchral Stalkers and Archers in the center just unloading on these Razorgore chariots, which, as we know from recent videos, are very dangerous. One of the best chariot units in the game right now. And I see a Fate of Buna popping off here. It looks like on the Sons of Goros, as they actually do have magic damage directly on their weapons. They came in here and just eliminated one of the Hexwraiths with that Enfeebling Foe active, but the other unit comes through and terrifies away the Sons of Goros. You see the summon of the skeletons here as well, or no, the Ushabti summon actually being pulled out already here. I guess there probably was some skeleton summons already from Arkan, not sure. But the archers managed to mostly stay safe in the back line. Beastmen were not able to disrupt them effectively enough to be able to save their advance. A lot of their infantry gets pushed back. The chariots also kind of just sideways go into this engagement here. I guess they are pretty armored and tough to stop, so they'll probably continue to accrue some pretty good value, but they're going to have to avoid stuff like the Sepulchral Stalkers and the higher mass of these other units here. But the Hexwraiths, they are relatively flimsy. They're going to start to fall apart here. Both units having done some stuff. This one hasn't quite paid for itself yet, but let's see. Maybe Arkan can try and stabilize the leadership here, even while they're crumbling. The terror's still kicking in, though, and terrifying away some of these Beastmen units. But, they did just take another rear charge there, and another Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma from the Bray Shaman, so they're probably done. We shall see. Again, even if it's not the most wildly effective thing, just the fact that you can. The fact that you have the option to. Especially when the option is to do something that's arguably suboptimal. I think it's a no-brainer just to let people do it. That being said, how would Creative Assembly implement this? I'm not really sure if there's a way for them to be able to, say, if you take a lord, then have a contextual menu of, extra units that pops up or something you can have access to. I don't think it would break the game, certainly in terms of balance, but actually, surprisingly, this X-Wraith's managed to stabilize its leadership, get some support from some skeleton horsemen that they can kind of ride alongside here, help saturate and protect them from some damage. Ooh, Bray Shaman. I don't think he does magic on his chariot. He does not, but he certainly can look like he's casting spells in melee there, and also does cast an actual Melkoth Mystifying Miasma, which will end the Hex Wraiths, but they end with 120 kills and a respectable, like, 1,200 damage value, so not too bad. Not bad at all. Let's get back to the fight, as Torox the Brass Bull is absolutely clobbering, I would imagine, the Tomb Prince here. Tomb Prince has anti-large. He's got that Tomb Strike active, so he's not going to go quietly into that good night, but he is weak to fire damage, which Torox definitely does, being a Corn Bull, who sadly has no access to Corn Minotaurs on his roster. Still, CA, why? Why? Why after all this time? Still no Corn Minotaurs for Beastmen. It's a travesty. Or did they change it? I think they added... Did they add the Cockatrice for Beastmen recently, I want to say? Still need the Corn Boys, I want to say. Anyway, Arcan's going to come in and 2v1 against the Tomb Prince. I say 2v1. He does have the Tomb Prince down now. And it looks like the Chariot's also going to get involved here. Get a nice little surround on Arcan. Box him in here against Torox. Arcan is, of course, also weak to fire damage, being a Tomb King Lord who's not Kotep. So, Spirit Leech, though, on something. I think that's on... Yeah, it's on Torox, who doesn't have the spell resistance of a Corn Boy. He's not that blessed. But let's keep the health bars up. This is definitely going to be anyone's game, and I say anyone's game. I think the Beastmen have this one pretty solidly in the bag with the demise of Arcan inevitably here. But... he does throw down one more Doom and Darkness to try and get those Centaurs off. I guess his last hope is really the Sepulchral Stalkers trying to get some shots onto Torox. But, yeah, Arcan gets chased away in his crumbling state. Just going to throw whatever he's got at Torox to try and delay him. Ooh, even the Bray Shaman coming back from route with a charge bonus. Pretty good. Nope, he's gonna nope on out of that. But let's see. Chariots are actually doing some damage to Arcan besides just the crumbling. Yeah, he goes down. But the Sepulchral Stalkers do get some hits on Torox, but the crumbling takes hold of them as well. We've got some skeletons and carrions like way out in the distance there. I don't know if they're going to do much here. But let's fast forward as the Beastmen clean up these last few. Torox is going to rout. Which, nope, he comes back. Okay, technically this is a conquest. I actually didn't even realize until right now. It may come in the late game. Probably not. I think the leadership is low enough on both sides. The one side will potentially just rout here, but Melkoth Mystifying Miasma on the Carrion starts them into crumbling as well, so they're basically just taking damage over time. And now they're forced to try and drop down to attack whatever they can. Oh, they managed to actually shatter the Bray Shaman, which almost actually shatters Torox, but then army losses takes hold for the Tomb Kings, and it'll be victory for the Beastmen. So yeah, suboptimal. Cool, definitely. Suboptimal, absolutely. Did it end up losing him the game here? Maybe. I mean, that's a decent amount of spend, especially for the one that's got absolutely clobbered there by the Sons of Goros and by the magic and so forth. Yeah, the Tomb Kings, I mean, they do have some other, like, lores and stuff that could potentially benefit them. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Arc in the Black, of course, is just Lore of Death, which is very kind of direct damagey, and it doesn't have a ton of direct buffs or synergy with the Hex Race themselves, but it's a strong lore of magic nonetheless. And Arcan, I actually didn't see if he was getting too many of his summons there, but that is one way he can help support the Hex Race pretty directly, is with those summons. Try and, help screen for them, help if they're in an unfavorable engagement, help give them, like, a way to try and pull out as many models as possible. It is tough because you can't directly heal them like you can with the vampire counts, but you can use another lore of magic. Let's see here. Yeah, Torox gets great value in himself here, and the Chariots also, just great units, even if they don't necessarily fully pay for themselves. The Disruption, the Tactical utility and the fact that they basically held out to the late game. I mean, I would say they carried the game in a pretty big way there. You do get a lot of crumbling damage against Tomb Kings. The values are maybe a little underinflated, but deflated? Yeah. Anyway, let's finish up here talking about Tomb Kings. And, yeah, hex rates. So they're here. They're locked behind this extended roster. But again, it would be nice if, like, let's say you come in here and you select Arcan as your lord. All of a sudden, these ones on the extended roster that are associated with him, mainly the Fellbats, hex rates, and ghouls, all unlock. I think the direwolves as well. Basically, the vampire counts units. And you can see as well that you even still, with them being an extended roster, I think technically you are paying a premium for them. I mean, yeah, 1,400 regular can rates versus 1,475 for hex rates for the Tomb King. So you're already paying a 75-point tax, which is a pretty big amount. And yeah, you don't have lore of vampires. What you do have, though, is, again, you've got extra physical resistance, which will help in some circumstances, won't help in some. But, you know, Tomb Blade of Arcan's great. But more importantly, what I was thinking here is if you actually, like, don't take a lot of spells, maybe only one spell on Arcan, you just have him as your general, and with summons and whatnot, he's also a decent combatant. But then you come in here and get the Lich Priest, right? And the Lich Priest has got Lore of Nekara, which every time you cast a spell will do a little bit of healing. It'll kind of augment the Realm of Souls. That I don't know, actually, if your extended roster Tomb Kings, yeah, they don't actually get access to that Realm of Souls healing, so that is another thing to consider. But Incantation of Cursed Blades, of course, can give them extra weapon strength, and more importantly, anti-large. Plus 16 bonus versus large on a Hex Wraith when they're fighting other cavalry will go a long way in increasing their hit chance. They already do ludicrous amounts of damage, but their melee attack's not that great at the end of the day. With that buff active, though, they go up to 50 melee attack, which is pretty good. Most cavalry don't have that good of melee defense, so it will definitely benefit them greatly in those kinds of engagements. Of course, you've got Incantation of Protection as well, which actually will max their physical resistance. Let's see here. If I go ahead and turn the unit caps off, they have what, like 60, 55%? Okay, so put them up to 95% physical resistance with the extra ward save, I guess. I didn't realize they have 8% ward save as well. But yeah, so again, it's also mostly just a cheap spell you can throw on them for a little healing if you need to. If you're looking for bigger spells as well, Incantation of Vengeance does really good damage and has a slow effect on it as well. Of course, you've got Incantation of Desiccation, which is a huge debuff. Yeah, it doesn't last super long time, but especially for considering how expensive on Winds of Magic it is, I would generally advise against that. But I think probably the best sort of strat here is to somewhat limited power. Okay. Interesting. Is this a bug? Anyway. Yeah, basically just to, like, take this guy alongside, and he's relatively cheap, but just to try and mostly curse blades as much as you can. It's only 5 Winds of Magic even on the upcast, so if you're doing 5 Winds of Magic for that, and then 3 here, or like if you don't need the extra anti-large, then you just go with the nice cheap one anyway, and you can get a decent amount of healing through Restless Dead. It's not insane. I mean, each time you cast this, you're getting like, what, 1.2% heals, which is okay, but you need to cast quite a few spells to get a decent amount of healing, but you definitely can, as long as the Hex Wraiths don't die too quickly. And again, the direct synergy, especially with Curse Blades, is definitely there. And then I guess technically you have like Light and Shadows here that are here, but I don't know, they don't really synergize. I mean, Light has some okay spells like Protection, actually giving them like legit armor and melee defense is pretty nice. Net to net something down. Time Warp also a big AoE melee attack. If they can run into this on a big engagement, that will definitely be good as well. But again, the healing, the exorcism, I should say, doesn't do anything actually for Tomb Kings. Immunopsychology doesn't matter at all for undead, so you might as well always cut that. And who really takes Light with Tomb Kings anyway? It's a discussion for another day. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.